here. All right, so about half, a little over half of you. Have any of you had some interesting experiences you'd like to share with everybody else here? Go for it.
Really windy days on a paved road where you couldn't stake it.
So what'd you do? How'd you keep it down?
We had, it was a combination of sandbags and people standing there holding them.
All right, so when you have an event in the middle of the commons, which is also known as the wind tunnel, this happens very frequently. Part of your job as an event planner is to secure all of the equipment.
Oh, it's broken.
Which one? Where?
Right here.
Oh, no.
Seriously, it is
That's
broken.
all right. We're going to keep going with putting it up like,
Okay.
so this could be something you could encounter.
Okay.
15 minutes.
We'll keep going.
It's okay.
Here, it looks like a top. We'll just pretend it's not broken because we won't put it up all the way anyhow. All right. So, yep, with two people, we're going to keep going. We got this. So, weighting a tent down. Major portion of equipment. Weighting all of your items down so they don't fly away. If you're taking a look at this tent right now, what is this tent? Pretend this top is solid. It's a sail for any type of large boat on the water, really. So essentially a tent flies when it gets windy. So if you're on a paved surface, which many of you will be if you utilize public spaces, parking lots, anything for your event that's like that, you need to always have your backup plan. So a major thing with events, what are some ways you've weighted down tents for Streets Alive and it's really windy?
Last May we used sandbags. They were all like cooperative extension, but it like broke our backs.
Right, so it has to be efficient. It also has to be able to get into your transport vehicle and back out in the time frame you need it without making this a risk to your crowd. So buckets of water, if you have water access, or you're at Stewart Park on the lake, and then you can dump them out and stack those buckets and put them in your truck. So, and having supplies on hand. Buckets, you're gonna need ropes, potentially stakes, if you have the opportunity. Now that's particularly for a tent, but you want to think through these steps for all the equipment you're using. What are the safety needs? And so if we're going to take a look at equipment and maintenance, ta-da, the Tompkins Festival site. So when you're putting together your event, you've gone through your event plan, you are a month out, and you're going through your list of rentals, right? And you need to know what you're going to order. So you put in your order to your rental companies, then you get this whole slew of stuff in lots of different ways.
Should we continue?
It's a little challenging with that, because you can't pull it out from the side without.
Oh, I think you can.
We didn't want to interrupt here.
Oh, keep going, come on, I want you to get after it. Oh, I didn't fall.
We stand now.
All right. Just thank you, let's give them a round. So, thank you. No, that's all right, that's okay. We'll keep going. Now this is an exercise it takes two people. How long from the beginning of my presentation till now was that? Anybody know?
About 5 minutes.
It's 4.5 minutes. So 4.5 minutes. Now, we had some minor complications there. But when you are scheduling 1 hour of setup with all your volunteers who maybe have never put a pop-up together, and they're probably going to break up into groups of 2 because volunteers work together in 2, or instead they're lost. So you should always put them in 2. You have to anticipate a much longer time when you're not working with professionals working with equipment. You have a higher breakage rate on the equipment that you borrow. So it's very important to have a supervisor who can teach them how to do this and also supervise while they're doing it. That means loading into a truck, unloading out of a truck, setting all that equipment up, securing that equipment, making sure that if it is something that needs to be locked up, something that they're going to leave and walk away from, that it's not something that's going to get stolen, because they don't know they're a volunteer. And most of you are going to work in events where you're going to have a large group of volunteers as the base, and they don't understand how this functions together and who's a good guy and a bad guy. They don't know that. So really taking a look when you're working with equipment, either hiring professionals or training your staff very well to utilize this equipment, and having somebody who might have a better idea working with equipment to help you learn so that you can teach others. So with this tent, You could do it by yourself. It's always easier with two people. It's a little hard to get it up all the way, but some of the things that you will understand about using equipment is sometimes more people are better, sometimes more people are more difficult. Your best helpful friend is Google. Your tech crew chief should always have a smartphone to be able to look up the guide for the serial number on the thing. The user manual is always available online for anything you have bought in the past 5 years. That is a super helpful tool because you're going to get equipment that's different than what you ordered. All right, so we're going to go back up here to the Tompkins Festival site. If you go up here to resources, there is a list of equipment. Thanks, Gary. And this is where you can get all kinds of equipment for your event for free if it's held within Tompkins County, as long as you ask for it and request ahead of time. So go to, yep, equipment. Now scroll down a little bit for me.
Use 2 fingers.
Two
And
fingers and then just drag it. Yep, perfect.
Oh.
Well, close. It's a Mac, it's very troubling. Anyhow, there is first a list of equipment. You may not know what all that equipment is. You may not know how to necessarily use it. It doesn't mean it's not useful for your event. And a lot of these things are general pieces of equipment. So take a look. There's tables, chairs. Does anybody have any idea what a Hubble power distribution and accessory is? Any clue?
They're like transformers.
Kind of. It's a distribution box that hooks to a giant towable generator with a long feeder cable that supplies electric to food vendors. It's this giant little panel. That's how all the ice carvers are run for those festivals. This is a piece of equipment that is very expensive to own, but makes your event so much easier to access resources and really allows it to stretch. Now, if you don't have an electrician hooking that to the generator, it's extremely risky and dangerous. So it's not something we would rent to you without full knowledge that you had somebody coming in who knew how to use that, but it is available to you at no charge, where renting something like this and all the cables to go with it could cost you $500 to $800 per event. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of music for your event, or it's a lot of piñatas. So you want to think we'll think in terms of piñatas. So you take a look at your sheet. Here, can you scroll up to the top for me? So say you put together your supply list from all of your rentals, everything you're going to get from places like this, music equipment. You want one list that includes all those things because that's how you know what you have to bring back and what you have left somewhere. There are so many first-year events that get dinged and end up very far in the hole because they left equipment at their site because it was a one-day event and thought their volunteers had cleaned it up. And that is really costly, and it makes sure that you don't have a second-year event because your board thinks you're irresponsible. And you really need to prove to them when you're having a first-year event that it's going well. Julie, if the porta potties are left in Stewart Park with Julie, she will not hear about it once. She will hear about it 5 times from every person involved in Stewart Park. She's going to hear about it from the police chief who went there to survey something. So at that point, it has stuck in Julie's head that now Micah leaves porta potties places. So when your next permit round comes up, she's going to ask you about those porta potties. But if nobody told you they were left there and you didn't know because of your supply list, you didn't have it marked off, you're not going to be ready for that. And then you're going to have that's going to be drawing out your first permit meeting into 3 permit meetings. And you are trying to work efficiently, generally, on a very low budget for a first-time event. You don't want that. So here, if you scroll up, click here to print the request and equipment form that's dark. Right inside that first, no, low, lower. There you go. Click right on it. Oh, it's blocked. Okay, well,
You can
that's
hit
the
the-
form that you fill out and then you send into the DIA
hit the arrow.
at the Tompkins Festival's website. That requests the equipment. They'll send you back a form that says, we have this, we
Yeah.
don't have this. These are the people who
Trust.
probably could provide that for you. And then talks to you a little bit more about what's the use for these items. You might be able to do it in an inexpensive way with this, this, and this. So you're going to scroll down. anyhow, this is your basic form. It lists all of the things that you might need at the end. And then you call them and say, do you have this? Do you have this? Ask for any, make a wish list. Because they have a lot of contacts of how to hook you up with equipment all over the place. When you request equipment, you also have to think about how you're transporting equipment. This is a huge component and it's very costly to your event. If the thing you're trying to pick up from the DIA is supposed to produce an event component that is music for your event, and the truck rental to move the thing from the DIA costs more than the event is projected to bring in income, because you have to buy insurance to be able to drive the truck, rent the truck. Even if you're not driving it, you have to rent it for, say, the day before, the day of the event, the day after. If it costs more to rent the truck than your event's gonna make, then you don't want that from the DIA. But you don't know that the bounce house weighs 400 pounds and requires 4 people to move it, and needs a constant energy flow, so can't run off a generator. When you ask for those items, they're going to talk to you a little bit about what your purpose is. So you want to think through that from beginning to end. If you have a vehicle big enough to move a bounce house, and if you have the funds to pay for the thing that moves the bounce house, if you don't. All right? So that's just what we're going over. So that's really, for things you need to know right off the bat to get equipment, it's right there. Utilizing a lot of that equipment will happen when you come to show up to pick it up. And that's, so it's fresh in your memory right before the event. And also if you have questions about how many people or how to project labor for moving, like setting up a stage, is very labor intensive. It takes a lot of people. Every section of the stage weighs 200 pounds. And depending on the size stage you use, it's going to change your labor costs. And that's going to affect your overall bottom line. So asking a lot of questions when you're going through an equipment request, same thing of your regular rental companies and how those things work. Everything as simple as the hitch on the generator to move it to your location, you could end up with a lot of delivery fees if you don't have a vehicle that can do that. So you really need to ask a lot of questions, and you might feel like you're being a pest. You only have to be a pest once to know the answer. It's fine, be a pest. At least you know and you can figure it out. Julie, how are you back there?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Come on up, Julie.
I mean, I'm exhausted just listening to everything you've covered so far. I applaud all of you event organizers for being here. It's a lot of work, I know. And
I want to give you enough. This is my fun game.
so the only comment I would add to the tent is about stakes. So if you end up staking it, you have to UFPO, which is 1-800-DIG-SAFELY New York, because there could be underground utilities. And something as simple as a little metal stake that is this big could actually hit an underground electrical wire or something like that and create a big problem and a huge safety hazard. So that's why I think she led with the sandbags or the water buckets or whatever, because it's also a lot easier if you're not on concrete. If you're in a park or whatever, you may still want to consider those things, weighting it as opposed to staking it, especially if you're in a time crunch and you forgot to do that, because there are time limits as to how early you can call to have that done.
There are. So I'm going to talk a little bit after Julie's done, if there's time, about some of those pieces, but this is the lovely piece of paper I handed out, and I didn't necessarily go over this section,
Okay.
but I know you have your own set of planned ideas. This I just give as a handout.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, I kind of came, and I'll apologize, I came a little unprepared because I wanted to be here more for the questions that you might have. So my name's Julie Conley Holcomb, and I'm the city clerk for the city of Ithaca. But I facilitate the city's special events team. So anybody having an event in the city of Ithaca that requires 3 or more permits qualifies as a special event. And the special event process is a bit more rigorous, as Patty may have mentioned, than just a simple event permit or a request to use a park or something like that. So the city's special event team is made up of representatives from the Ithaca Fire Department, the Ithaca Police Department, the Department of Public Works, some of our Parks and Forestry people, our parking people, planning and economic development. I mean, it's a very comprehensive team that is specifically designed to help you have a successful event. And the goals around that was to make sure that our communication is as strong as it can possibly be. We want to hear every aspect of your event because we need to make sure that we can assist you in keeping everybody safe. But you also there have one-stop shopping access to all the city officials that you're going to need to get questions answered and all of that. So it's a process that has worked really well. We've just developed an online permitting system that we're piloting for this season to see how well that will go, especially for the events that are recurring every year, very little change. You know, we don't want to drag you into meetings and you don't want to come to these meetings if you don't have to. So we're trying to see, you know, we want to see all new event organizers because we want to be able to introduce ourselves to you. We want to get to know you a little bit and a little bit more about your event. You know, if the Apple Harvest Festival has generally remained the same aside from construction, you know, for a couple of years, you know, we don't want to bother Patty as long as, and she's a proven event organizer, that's the other thing. You know, we like to get a couple of years of working with event organizers until we know, hey, they've got it. We don't have to worry about this. And I know if those porta potties are there, I know who to call and I can say, hey, what's the deal? You know, there's day camps and it's in the way and, you know, all of that. But I also know that there's not going to be porta potties there because, you know, you guys know what you're doing. So that's our intent in working with you, is to help you become really strong event organizers and to understand where the city's coming from, because you're requesting to use public property that belongs to everybody. So we're the stewards of that property, so we have a number of responsibilities. Number one, public safety will always be our primary concern. So you guys may come in with some really creative ideas and, you know, hey, what are some of the, well,
I want to put a slide down Buffalo Street.
yes, or the
Big
skate
one.
jam, the Ithaca Skate Jam.
Really?
We want to put skateboarders down Buffalo Street, and at first we're like, what? You know, that's crazy, you know. But then you come in and you say, no, these are trained professionals. They know what they're doing. They're, you know, it's not just the random person's not going to be able to say, hey, I want to try this, and, you know, go off these loop-de-loop jumps and things like that. So we're going to ask you about those events. And we've had some kind of crazy asks, and we've got a couple of times we've had to say, nah, you know, one which would have been really popular and is a cool idea, helicopter rides in Stewart Park. That was a request for one of the Ithaca festivals, which is a great idea on its face, but when you start to delve a little bit deeper, Stewart Park is one of the places where we have the lowest hanging electrical wires. And it's also that part of the festival draws 5,000 people maybe throughout the day to that park. So as you have aircraft coming in, there's trees, there's electrical wire, so it becomes very technical to begin with, and you're flying over water and you're flying over people. You know, there's times where we have to say, we're not sure we want to accept that risk. I mean, you'd be accepting the risk along with us because we require insurance for all of your events, but there's going to be times that you're going to be told, I don't think so. Or you may be told yes with some modifications, or you may be told, hey, that's really cool, you know, I can't wait to come, I can't wait to see how that all works out.
So with this, how early should somebody approach you with their original idea? Because if your original idea is going to get shot down, you don't want to raise all the funding for it. We don't want to go through a huge process of investing a lot of time and resources. So when should they come with you if their event is going to have it's going to trigger at least 3 permits within the city?
We want to see, if it's a rather benign, it's a musical festival kind of thing. So you're having a bunch of bands, you're going to have some vendors, you're going to, you know, that's not a big deal to us. We would want to see you probably a minimum of, if you're new, 3 months before your event, so that we have opportunity, because our team only meets once a month. So we want an opportunity to cycle you through at least twice if there's problems. And this means you're brand new, you've never really done this, you haven't worked with us before.
What if there's camping at that music festival and it has a parade?
We will want to see you at minimum 6 months before your event. And actually, I'd love to talk to you the year before your event, because there's a lot of steps that add up to that, just to put it on our radar. And sometimes, you know, it's a matter of convincing city staff that everything's going to be okay and that you've got it under control. you know, and that takes some massaging sometimes, and it takes us sometimes to say, well, how are we really gonna pull this off, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and so we wanna work with you on your contingency plans, and we'll say, okay, but, you know, for Stewart Park, it's a great venue. I love events, I have it at Stewart Park, but there's a couple major problems with that venue. There's only about 280 parking spots, so if you're having an event and you're hoping to draw 700-800 people, you have a problem, and we wanna know how you're gonna handle that. Because you can't park on the grass, because we'll be all over you if we see that. You know, and there's summer storms that come up the lake very quickly. We want to know how you're going to be monitoring those weather conditions. And should you have 800 people in Stewart Park and we get a tornado warning or something like that, how are you getting them out of Stewart Park? Especially since they don't have their cars. What are you going to do? Because there's one main structure that can hold maybe 200 people. Where are the other 600 people going? You know, what plans do you have in place if something like that happens? So, you know, fortunately for you, a lot of the people that sit on the special events team are also on the city's emergency management team. And we have some experience with different types of events, and we can help you work through some of those plans. But that's what we're looking for you. I mean, and that's why I say I applaud all of you for being here, because these events, large or small, are very complex. When you're worried about tents and generators and porta potties and where are you going to put this, and you have a problem musician that can't come in till this time, and then I'm coming at you saying, well, yeah, but what if there's a tornado, or what if there's a thunderstorm and that electrical line comes down in Stewart Park? You know, what are you going to do about that? Or, you know, how's your trash going to get disposed of? And you know, you can't have your tent up for 5 days in the park, and you know, but your tent company says, well, that's the only time I can deliver it, and you know, so we need time to work all of those things out. So the earlier you can get in, the better for us. And we have a lot. Right now, we are juggling 15 event applications, and that takes us up. A couple events are out to September, but we know we have a lot more coming.
How many did you do last year?
We did over 30 last year. And our events typically start off with the chili cook-off in February, and they go through December actually with the chowder cook-off and the ice carving and all of that. So there's a couple of months that I would say we slow down a little bit. We have a lot of running events now. Those seem to be the up-and-coming events that are happening. And those are, actually some of those are the easiest ones, except now we have a brand new challenge, which actually came in almost a year in advance. They want to do a half marathon, a 13-mile run around Ithaca, which will bring a lot of people. We're really excited about this event, but this year we have to deal with construction. Every year we have to deal with construction, but this year we have to deal with Lake Street Bridge construction, and there's going to be Tioga Street, Cayuga Street's going to be under construction. So right now I'm in a panic thinking, oh my goodness, I have tentatively just approved some of these events, and now I have to coordinate construction schedules with them if they're in the streets or whatever. We've had commons construction, we've had all kinds of things. So there's a lot on our end that we're trying to coordinate too, and trying to take some of that burden off of you. But, you know, that's why we want you to get in early, because there's just so many details that you have to work on, and we want to hear about. And when you have the event and we're like, okay, everything's great, and you come in 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, well, we want to have a helicopter. You know, I mean, that's almost a no-go from the start, just because there's not enough time at that point. So, you know, the wilder your ideas, give them to us the earliest, so that we have time to digest it, ask you about it. The more smaller things, oh, we're going to have, you know, 7 food trucks instead of 3 food trucks or something like that. That's pretty easy stuff. That's not a big deal. And we will ask you for a map, but we don't need to know exactly where each vendor's going to be.
Till the end.
Till
She
the
wants
end.
final at the
The
end.
fire
and
chief
that's-
needs to know that you're meeting all the fire codes, and they're rigorous. So,
Right.
but you have some experts here that can help you walk through those, along with the fire chief and the assistant.
And does anybody have any questions for Julie? We're about to, we're kind of our point where we're going to wrap up, and we can answer some more detailed ones after this. But
So this is mostly applying to things that are happening on city property within the city of Ithaca?
Correct.
How, maybe you can't speak to this, but how does that shift if it's like not, you know, within Tompkins County but not, you know, in the city of Ithaca, or on private land, not on public land?
So, a lot of times you're going to end up at your town board, or you'll end up at, there's a building department for the town outside, or like in Newfield for you. Like, I'm gonna put up a big party that's gonna go for 3 days straight. It's gonna have lots of tents, tables. It's essentially like what you would see as a wedding. To be able to put that up, I need to go and apply for a building permit at least 2 months out for the town. And I have to get the ground UFPO, so a New York State surveyor to come in and tell me where all the lines are, where I can put that. I have to get another electrical permit to be able to run electric from the structure I have to light the tent. So not all of these things are gonna apply to you specifically, especially if you're on private property versus public property. But even on private property, if you have an assembly of over 50 people, that may require you to have certain amenities involved. And also just taking a look at facilities. You'll know from how many people you've had at the venue, what types of things you need and how those work together. But like, if I have a generator, I have a tent, and I have a food vendor, what that food vendor is using to cook changes where all of those things can go in relation to each other. And then, on top of that, what type of structures I have to order from the rental company for what the material, what the tents are made out of. And if they have sides, if there's lit exit signs, there's a lot of things that work together depending on how you change the structure of that plan. And so that'll change what types of permits you need. The best thing to do is to call. Like, call your town office and say, I'm thinking of doing this, this, and this. Do any of these things require a permit? And they will immediately, like, if Julie gets a
Especially
call.
amplified sound, that'll be a
Yeah.
big one, probably that's universal too.
Right, amplified
Yeah.
sound. And so in some type of performances, pyrotechnics require a different type of permit. And so there are a lot of things to look at, because pyrotechnics is a really interesting one. And some things that are health code related are state level, and some are county level. And some of those contradict within. So you have to know what inspector you're getting at your event, when, to know what to show them. And so it's reading, so the permits tell you everything you have to get for security, so how much security you need to buy into your event to keep it secure, how many police officers you have to have at your event, how many ambulances and paramedics you have to have at your event. Even if it's small, your permit will tell you, okay, you need to have this, this, and this. So reading the fine print. If you're making deep fried Oreos and it's not 5 feet away from your tent and it catches on fire and it was also too close to a building and that catches on fire, you have to deal with 3 city agencies and 3 different sets of reports, and that looks very poor for your future. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and there are accidents, but if you're not following the guidelines that you sign off of and have an inspector come and say you move something after the inspector comes, that's on you. That's your liability insurance. Good event insurance is really expensive, and getting event insurance after you have to make all of those reports and they're documented is very difficult.
And making sure that your vendors all have the permits that they need. Food vendors have to have, if they're using propane, they have to have propane permits, at least in the city.
This was the scary talk.
Yeah.
Read the stuff on your permits, it's very important.
It's important, because when the fire department sends personnel around and they find vendors who don't have propane permits, back in the day when we had time, we might stop and try to issue one right on the spot, but more likely than not anymore, they're gonna say, sorry, you have to pack up and go. And if you have to pack up and go and there's already 800 people, milling around,
Getting a
and
car
you have to
in,
get a
yeah.
vehicle on and get them packed up and out.
But also, your
more
vendor
hassle for
income.
you.
At that point, you have to spend half an hour of when you're supposed to be coordinating your event, haggling with that vendor to get their booth fee back. Because they're not gonna leave without their booth fee. They're gonna be a problem for the next half an hour and follow you around your festival. And you're not gonna be able to get anything done. And so, making sure, cross your Ts and dot your Is. Any other questions for Julie?
Does the food truck have to be, or are they already?
So some food trucks already have permits. I mean, in the city of Ithaca, we rely on the event organizer to be in charge of all aspects of your event. So we're not gonna ask for the food truck's department certificate, but you should, and you should have it, and you should have their sales tax certificate and all of that, because if anything comes up, foodborne illness gets spread around and people are starting to look at the event, we're coming to you and we're gonna say, hey, can we get a copy of that health department certificate? And if you don't have it, then you're gonna have a harder time with insurance claims and different things like that, so.
And food vendors that are temporary, it all has to do with how they permit their health permit, from whether it is a standing kitchen or whether it's a temporary kitchen they set up each event. And that specific, and you can call environmental health at the health department, and you would talk to Ann Wildman. She is the person who's currently in charge. That changes every few years, but she's the person who focuses specifically on temporary food vending situations right now in Tompkins County.
How do I know if I need any permit?
Call your municipal office wherever you're having an event, because there's a good chance that you might not in certain areas, or you may need 1 permit versus 3 permits or something like that. That's very easy to get through and all of that. But my guess is if you're having anything that has to do with amplified sound, if you're having anything that's drawing over 100 people, in the city of Ithaca it's 50 people, at least you need an assembly permit. And that's basically just lets us know who you are, what you're doing, and where you're doing it. And it lets the police department know that in case there's any issues along the way.
So when you're maybe beginning to think about an event, just call the municipality
Yeah.
and the township.
Yeah, after you go through your game plan,
Right.
and you've figured out your attendance you think you're gonna have, and before you write your full, kind of delve into it, look at your permits. Do you have the ability to fulfill all the requirements on your permit? You know?
And
Also-
you'll want to know what the municipality is going to be asking of you, because you have to translate that into dollars and cents for your budget. Because if municipality, if they say, yes, you can do it, but you're going to need an ambulance, and you're going to need, you're going to need, those are all costs you have to factor into your, and if you don't, and all of a sudden it comes, to the end of this thing, and I got to come up with $1,000 for an ambulance, whatever the number is.
You're done.
That's really hard.
Yeah,
Right, and-
you don't want to be there. You want to know that way before, as you're building your budget, not at the end, when you're
Right.
trying to.
So be more
pull things out.
detailed and,
Right, and one of the things you can definitely do is, after we're done here, the whole purpose of having these workshops is to get you to start thinking through all the details of your event, and then talk to Gary, talk to Allison. They provide technical assistance, so you set up a meeting and you come prepared. Bring the budget you have so far, bring the event plan you have so far, and all of your questions, what you plan to implement. And they can help you and steer you towards, okay, you're gonna put a tent up that's over 400 square feet, you're gonna need a building permit here. A lot of those baseline pieces of information, they're gonna know. The other things, they can't know everything for your event, and that's on you. So it's on you to ask questions of them and come prepared so that they can see what an accurate picture looks like for you, but then also to call your municipality.
And I'll just put my plea in there, is try to be as forthright as possible. Even if you're thinking of something, but it's not solid yet, shoot it out there, because what we find is people tend to be really secretive about what they're doing. Well, yes, I'm having an event at Stewart Park, and I want to know, do I need any permits? Well, what are you doing? Well, we want to have a bounce house. Okay, well, how many people are you? And so we end up with this whole 50, questions game. And, depending on who you get in my office, you might get somebody who will ask you all those 50 questions and get you in the right direction. Or you might get a staff person that asks you 3 questions and leads you to one person, and you're not getting the information that you need. So be as open and honest and say, yeah, I want to have an event in Stewart Park, and it's going to be, an arts and culture festival, and we want to have a bounce house, and we're going to have talent shows, and we're expecting about 500 people, and we're doing this, and and we can help you from there. It's
not
just,
too much detail.
there's never too much detail for us.
No. Anybody else have questions? You ready to go home?
Okay. Well, you've been here for a long time. Thank you very much. We have one more of these next week, where we're going to do a whole other set of issues. Who's